She gave Selena Gomez a kidney, and now she's trying to destroy her. But the twist? Taylor Swift just exposed the truth no one saw coming. Everyone thought Selena Gomez was the villain. But then Taylor Swift posted one thing that flipped the entire internet and exposed who the real problem was. Imagine saving your best friend's life and then watching her walk away like you never existed. That's what Francia Raisa says happened, but Taylor Swift just revealed a very different story. It started as love, a friendship so deep, one gave the other a kidney. But now, that same friendship has turned into something dark, jealous, bitter, and toxic. For years, everyone called Selena Gomez ungrateful until Taylor Swift quietly dropped receipts that proved everything we thought we knew was a lie. When I found out I was a match, it didn't happen the way I imagined. One day, Selena FaceTimed me out of the blue and simply said, "You're a match." That was it. No warning, no build-up, just those words that would change both our lives. Not long after, Francia unfollowed Selena Gomez on Instagram, and the timing raised eyebrows. It happened the very next day after Selena's documentary My Mind and Me premiered. News had just shared a post quoting Selena from her Variety interview, where she talked about her surgery and said, "I basically had a C-section." Selena explained how difficult her recovery really was, the kind of pain that doesn't just fade in a few weeks. She couldn't lift anything heavy, could barely walk without wincing, and had to move slowly for months while her body adjusted to what had just happened. She joked that it felt like she'd had a C-section, but the reality was far from funny. Her body had been cut open, rearranged, and stitched back together, and every step reminded her of that. Fans saw the public version of the story, two best friends, one life-saving transplant, a bond that seemed unbreakable. But behind the smiles and the gratitude posts, things were far more complicated. What the world didn't see was how quickly that friendship started to change once the spotlight turned their story into a headline. The first real crack appeared when Francia's father decided to speak out. No one expected it. In an interview that spread like wildfire, he shared personal details about the situation that stunned everyone. He said things that made it sound like Selena hadn't been thankful enough, that she'd somehow taken his daughter's gift for granted. But the way he talked about it raised questions too. Why was he speaking for his daughter? And why now? That single interview sparked a wave of confusion. Some fans rushed to defend Francia, saying her father was just standing up for her. Others thought the whole thing was unnecessary, that dragging private matters into public view only made things worse. Then came the Daily Loud report, and that's when it really hit people. The tension between Selena and her kidney donor, Francia Raisa, wasn't just gossip, it was real, and it had been simmering for a long time. What once looked like a sisterly bond was now starting to feel like a quiet rivalry. The deeper fans dug, the more complicated it got. Francia had been praised endlessly for what she did, and rightfully so. Donating a kidney isn't a small gesture, it's a piece of your body, a piece of your life. But slowly, that act of generosity started to cast a shadow over their friendship. People noticed how often Francia would bring it up in interviews or online posts, even years later. It wasn't malicious at first, maybe just her way of processing such a massive experience, but over time, it started sounding like a reminder. Selena, on the other hand, had been trying to move forward. She never denied what Francia did for her. She'd thanked her publicly, shared emotional posts, and even called her the person who gave her the ultimate gift. But after a while, she wanted to focus on her music, her health, and her life beyond the surgery. And that's where the tension really began to grow, between gratitude and guilt, between two people who saw the same event in completely different ways. When Selena released her documentary My Mind and Me, fans expected to see some mention of Francia, maybe a short clip or a kind word. But she wasn't mentioned at all. Instead, the film focused on Selena's mental health journey, her struggles with fame, and her path to healing. It was raw and powerful, but to many, the absence of Francia's name felt loud. Not long after, news reported that Francia had unfollowed Selena on Instagram, a modern-day sign that something was seriously off. And the timing was impossible to ignore. It happened just one day after the documentary premiered. Then there was the Rolling Stone interview, where Selena said, "My only friend in the industry is Taylor Swift." For casual readers, it was a throwaway line. But for Francia, it was a punch to the gut. She wasn't just a colleague, she'd been there through hospital visits, recovery nights, and everything in between. To be left out completely felt like betrayal. Francia didn't rant or call her out directly. She just left one word, "interesting," under a post about the interview. That single word set the internet on fire. Within hours, screenshots spread everywhere, and fans started picking sides. It wasn't long before the narrative flipped. People who once praised Selena were suddenly calling her ungrateful. But then, as more information came out, everything changed again. Fans noticed how Francia seemed to insert herself into every conversation involving Selena. She said she didn't want to be defined by the kidney donation, yet she kept bringing it up. Even her father's interviews painted her as someone who couldn't let go of the past. Meanwhile, Selena stayed mostly quiet. She responded once, lightly, under a TikTok post, saying, "Sorry I didn't mention every person I know." That simple, calm clapback was enough to show that this wasn't just a misunderstanding. There had been tension bubbling for years. Behind the scenes, rumors spread that Francia had become controlling, wanting to know where Selena was, who she was with, even monitoring her social media. And according to people close to both of them, it all came from fear of being replaced, fear of being forgotten, fear that her act of love no longer guaranteed closeness. The saddest part was that it didn't have to end this way. Two women who once called each other sisters had become strangers, torn apart by jealousy, guilt, and the weight of public opinion. By the time the Daily Loud dropped their report, most fans weren't even shocked anymore, just disappointed. They'd seen too many interviews, too many side comments, too many signs that this friendship was no longer about love but about control. It's painful when gratitude turns into resentment, when generosity becomes a weapon, and when a story that began with life-saving kindness ends in silence. But that's exactly what happened here. In the end, what hurt most wasn't the surgery, or the fame, or the gossip. It was realizing that sometimes, even the deepest bonds can break when one person stops seeing love as a gift and starts seeing it as leverage. Then Taylor Swift stepped into the picture, and everything changed. It started with one post. Taylor didn't say much, but what she did say hit hard enough to make the internet stop in its tracks. People began to see the story differently. Maybe, just maybe, Selena wasn't the villain everyone had made her out to be. For weeks, the internet had torn Selena apart, calling her ungrateful and heartless, accusing her of abandoning the woman who gave her a second chance at life. Every tweet, every TikTok, every comment thread told the same story. Francia is the hero, Selena is the monster. But Taylor's post, subtle yet perfectly timed, flipped the narrative overnight. Suddenly, people started asking questions. What if there was more to the story? What if Selena wasn't the one who changed? What if she was the one who'd been quietly enduring years of tension, guilt, and control? The internet went into detective mode. Fans started rewatching old interviews, rereading captions, and piecing together clues that had been there all along. Slowly, a new picture began to form, one where jealousy and resentment had been eating away at the friendship long before the world ever knew something was wrong. According to people close to both women, Taylor had been noticing the cracks for a while. When she and Selena grew closer, she started to see how different Francia's energy was whenever Selena was around other people. The subtle comments, the forced smiles, the passive-aggressive digs hidden as jokes. Taylor stayed quiet at first, not wanting to involve herself in someone else's friendship drama. But over time, it became impossible to ignore. Behind closed doors, things had apparently gotten toxic. Francia had begun demanding to know where Selena was, who she was hanging out with, and why she was spending so much time with certain people. What had once been friendship started to look more like control. Selena, who had already spent years battling for her independence, from her health struggles, from her mental health challenges, and from public scrutiny, found herself feeling trapped in yet another situation where she couldn't just breathe. When Taylor saw all of this unfold up close, she realized something had to give. And while Taylor isn't the type to blast her personal issues online, those close to her say she'd been warning Selena for months. She wanted her friend to see what was really happening, that Francia's concern wasn't coming from love anymore, but from insecurity and the need to stay relevant in a story that had already moved on. That's when Taylor, allegedly, decided to lay everything out. She compiled what insiders called receipts, text messages, screenshots, deleted posts, and videos that showed how Francia had been stirring up drama behind the scenes. Some of those clips reportedly included Francia talking negatively about Selena, shading her publicly, and pretending to be the victim. Once Selena saw everything laid out, it all clicked. The confusion, the mixed signals, the endless back and forth, it finally made sense. Francia wasn't protecting her, she was trying to control her narrative. And the moment Selena stopped feeding that energy, Francia turned on her completely. Taylor's quiet intervention helped Selena see the truth, but it also confirmed what fans had long suspected, that the friendship had died long before it was officially over. Francia had built her image around being the girl who saved Selena Gomez. It was noble at first, but over time, it became her whole identity. And when Selena started thriving again, releasing music, healing, finding love, and reclaiming her story, it's like Francia couldn't handle it. The jealousy wasn't loud. It crept in slowly in side comments, passive-aggressive interviews, and sudden social media moves. Francia unfollowing Selena after My Mind and Me, the deleted interesting comment under the Rolling Stone post, the vague statements about their friendship being complicated each moment painted a clearer picture of resentment. Taylor's post, in a way, just confirmed what many already felt in their gut. Selena had never been ungrateful. She'd just been trying to protect her peace. And for someone like Selena, who has spent her entire life under the microscope, walking away from a friendship that once saved her wasn't about drama, it was about survival. In the end, Taylor's quiet loyalty spoke louder than any statement. She didn't name names, didn't tag anyone, didn't add to the chaos. She just dropped enough truth to remind the world that not everything online is what it seems. And from that moment on, the internet's sympathy shifted. People began to see the whole situation differently, not as a story of betrayal, but as one of boundaries. Because sometimes, the hardest thing to do is step away from someone who once gave you everything, when they no longer know how to let you live. But Taylor's post flipped the narrative. It hinted that Selena wasn't the problem, that jealousy had slowly poisoned the friendship. And it wasn't just quiet envy from afar. There were whispers of sabotage, attempts to ruin Selena's wedding, bad reviews left on her products, and more behind-the-scenes drama than anyone could have guessed. Taylor seemed to have the receipts too, and suddenly, everyone wanted answers. Was Francia always jealous of Selena's success, or did something finally push her over the edge? Of course, no relationship is perfect. Even Selena herself admitted, every relationship has its ups and downs. I went a year without talking to my own mother, the woman who gave birth to me. So yeah, we've had our stuff. Still, what happened between Selena and Francia wasn't just a small disagreement. It had been building for years, quiet tension that finally exploded around Selena's Santa Barbara wedding. It started with a single interview Francia did before the big day. When asked if she'd be attending Selena's wedding, she replied vaguely, saying she'd heard Selena was getting married. Her tone, though, said everything polite smile, but no warmth. Just irritation hiding under fake calm. Then came the question about those viral rumors that Selena had been drinking and smoking after her kidney transplant. Francia stumbled. First, she brushed it off, then said she didn't know, then mentioned TMZ had reached out, but she hadn't replied yet. And finally, she dropped a strange line, "Maybe one day we will." That one sentence set off alarms. Her forced smile, her nervous glances away from the camera, it didn't read as composure. It looked like resentment spilling over in real time. Days later, Selena's wedding took place. It was a star-studded event. Taylor Swift, Ed Sheeran, Martin Short, even Paris Hilton attended. But everyone noticed who wasn't there. Francia, the same woman who once gave Selena a kidney in 2017, yet wasn't mentioned anywhere in the film. Some fans defended Selena, saying she probably just misspoke during her interview. Maybe when she said the industry, she meant music specifically, since Francia is an actress and Selena has friends like Cara Delevingne in acting, too. Others thought the wording didn't matter. What mattered was the emotion behind it. Either way, people hoped the two women could fix things. After all, they'd been close for over a decade and used to call each other sisters. Not long before all this, they were making fun TikToks together, laughing like nothing could come between them. But a year later, Francia gave another interview, and things got even messier. She said they hadn't really talked in 6 years and hadn't spoken at all in the past year. No beef, she claimed, just distance. But fans weren't buying it. How do you go from donating a kidney to cutting off contact? That's not distance, that's deep resentment. And when you look at the timeline, it almost feels like their friendship didn't fade naturally. It cracked under guilt, jealousy, and the feeling of control that came after the transplant. That's when Taylor Swift, who had grown closer to Selena, started noticing things herself. She saw how Francia acted around Selena, the subtle digs and the quiet tension. For a long time, Taylor stayed silent, not wanting to interfere. But everything changed when Francia did that now infamous interview just days before Selena's wedding. According to insiders, that was Taylor's breaking point. She's not the type to air things publicly, but she'd apparently been warning Selena for months about Francia's behavior. When things got out of hand, Taylor allegedly gathered all the proof she'd been collecting, text messages, screenshots, deleted videos, and showed it all to Selena. Those receipts, as fans now call them, reportedly revealed a lot. Francia had made private videos and posts that painted Selena in a bad light, never expecting they'd ever be exposed. But once Taylor showed everything, there was no going back. Whatever was left of their friendship ended right there. And instead of apologizing or stepping back, Francia seemed to double down. She began posting things that looked like thinly veiled jabs at Selena. One of them was a video claiming that Selena's fans were bullying her, though she never shared any actual proof. To many, it looked less like a cry for help and more like a calculated move to keep the drama alive. At first, most of the internet took Francia's side. Every post or clip about her and Selena filled up with people dragging Selena for being ungrateful and praising Francia for being such a loyal friend. But once more details started coming out, the mood completely shifted. People began realizing just how manipulative Francia's behavior had become, and they didn't hold back. Comments poured in, calling her out. One person wrote, "That's so controlling of Francia, expecting to have a say in how Selena lives her life." Another said, "It's a kidney. Unless she's binge drinking, she's fine. Francia needs to stop playing the 'I gave you a kidney' card." The irony, as fans pointed out, was that Francia once took Selena to Napa Valley, wine country, to celebrate her birthday. The same woman criticizing Selena for drinking was literally the one who brought her to a vineyard. People started seeing her less as a victim and more as someone bitter and desperate to stay relevant. Francia had always claimed she didn't want to be known only as the donor. But she was the one constantly bringing it up. Every interview, every side comment, every subtle dig, it all came back to that one act of generosity she couldn't stop reminding people about. Just when everyone thought the drama had finally calmed down, another twist surfaced, and this time, Taylor Swift was involved again. Insiders said Taylor wasn't done exposing what really went on behind the scenes. Apparently, Francia had become overly controlling of Selena, wanting to know where she was, who she was with, and even keeping tabs on her social media. She reportedly didn't like Selena going out or attending events alone, almost like she needed to manage her every move. But the biggest shock came from Francia's own father. In an interview, he admitted that Francia had been telling people Selena owed her everything, her career, her comeback, her life, because of that kidney donation. He also claimed Francia said she suffered from ADHD and PTSD because of what Selena put her through. Hearing that about someone she once called a sister was heartbreaking and, honestly, unbelievable. If her own father was saying that publicly, it showed just how far things had fallen apart. This wasn't a friendship that faded naturally, it was one that collapsed under resentment, jealousy, and control. In the end, it became clear that Francia didn't want a friendship, she wanted power. She wanted to be praised, to be seen as the hero in Selena's story. But the moment Selena started standing on her own again, the relationship couldn't survive. Now, Selena's happily married, Taylor has already shared the receipts, and Francia is still online trying to prove she's the victim. All that love, history, and loyalty gone. Over jealousy and one wedding invite that changed everything. And that silence between them? It says more than any post, interview, or apology ever could.